So, at this time on a Tuesday night, what we like to do is speak to somebody of note, of interest, and do it for a good half hour and really get into some issues. And this evening, we're going to explore what happens to footballers when they hang up their boots. Obviously, we know the ones that become managers or pundits or directors of football. Some do other things. And tonight, we're joined by Gareth Farrelly, who is now a lawyer, studied law after he left football, and advises young pros on how best to manage their money for the future. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
It's
Person
a great
of
pleasure.
note or interest obviously rules me out. Person of note or interest rules me out.
Don't be modest now. We're going to play you a fantastic goal in a minute. This 30-yard screamer that you scored for Everton. But obviously I'm more interested in your career at Aston Villa as a Villa fan. So we're going to do half an hour on that. No, we're not.
You won't get half an hour out of my Villa career.
Listen, tell me, before we get into your career per se, what do you make of Joe Kinnear's return to Newcastle as Director of Football? And what do you make of the Director of Football position?
Well, the Director of Football position has become more popular and more successful in certain areas. But
Was it around in your day?
No, not necessarily. I think if anybody had come up with that, it would have been slightly off the wall in many ways. But with regard to Joe Kinnear, I think at the moment we've got quite a quiet week in relation to football and stories and everything around it. But in keeping with Newcastle, they like to have topics for people, and the fans and everybody around Newcastle has obviously vented their opinion on it. So
how would it have gone down in the dressing room when the players would have heard that the Director of Football has got all their names wrong?
Yeah, names wrong. Again, I think it's a difficult one. And without trying to sit on the fence too much, I think it's only time is going to show which way that will go, whether it'll be a disaster, which has already been predicted on many levels, or whether I'm not sure of the full impact he's going to have in relation to things. Again, I think he can put titles on a lot of things, but the actual input he's going to have, only time is going to tell.
Gareth Farrelly played at a whole host of clubs, Villa and Everton amongst them, and when he was at Everton, he did this.
And Everton have taken the lead. Gareth Farrelly with a 20-yard shot, right-footed, in off the left-hand upright, nestles the ball in the back of the Coventry net. What a start for Everton Football Club. Precisely what they wanted. Everton 1, Coventry 0, Farrelly the goal scorer.
Alan Green just starting off his commentary career there. So that was the goal against Coventry City in May of 1998, which helped to preserve the Blues Premier League status. And there's a great shot of Howard Kendall then. You can see the relief on his face. What was it like, scoring a 30-yard screamer in front of a full house? Because it's something that every boy I know will dream of and very few get to do. Absolutely.
But I think for me, it's funny to kind of hear it 15 years on. I think when you're playing, you're probably guilty in some ways of not really been aware or appreciating where you're at, and it's only as time moves on, as I say, the significance of it, especially with how Everton have kicked on obviously since then. I think there was a period where relegation battles were far too prevalent, if you like, whereas lately it's about, are they going to challenge for a Champions League place and things like that. So fabulous for me, and as I say, when I look back on a career now, at least there's been certain things and moments within it that have been a little bit of significance.
So Villa picked you up as a schoolboy. You were 16, is that right?
I signed for Villa when I was on my 17th birthday. I was one of the lucky ones. I signed a pro contract straight away.
So what kind of advice do you get at 17 years old? I mean, who's helping you with that contract?
Yeah, but you say advice. I think it was different times then even to what it is now. I think even from my own point of view, I was probably extremely innocent in relation to the world of football and how it worked. And I think it takes you a long, long time to actually figure out it is. You can talk about joking here, you can apply it to different things, but it is, despite all the interest and everything that around it and fans and, as I say, the coverage now and the intensity of it, I think it's a business that you only really get to know from being involved in it.
Right.
So ill-prepared, I think, is probably the best way to know.
Because now you help kids in that situation, don't you? Is that right?
No, it's starting to now. I think one of the things when you reflect is that you think, well, what type of advice would I have listened to at the time? Because again, when you're 17, you sign a pro contract at a Premier League club. I don't think your feet touch the ground. You don't want to listen to anybody. You've arrived already. And I think the difficulty with that now, and especially for young players as we sit today, is that getting to a Premier League club in reality is only sort of buying a seat at the table. And in some ways, you get caught up in it already, whereas you've got no guarantees even at that point. And I think statistically that's been proven that how difficult it is, and it's becoming more so. So from my own point, it's been an opportunity to try and reflect on. I still classify myself in some ways as a walking mistake in relation to mistakes you make along that way.
Right.
And hopefully been able to...
What mistakes did you make then?
Oh, everyone. I think, being honest with you, you've no appreciation or realisation of where you're at.
Give us some examples, because I've never signed for a club.
Just every aspect of it. I think as a youth, it's,
Were you flash? Were you flash?
No, I don't think I would have been
flashing the cash about.
No, I didn't have any cash to flash. It all went on different things. It was different climate then. Do you know what I mean? You were lucky to get your digs paid in them days.
Is that right?
Yeah, and you go back to the old apprenticeship, £35 a week. Some of the lads were on. It was a different climate and different world now. I was having a conversation recently with somebody about how you could tell the changes in football based on the evolution of cars. I remember the Fiesta XR2 or the XR3.
And that was the one to have in that.
Oh, listen, God, if you had one of them with the BMX sticker on the back, you'd arrived. And then it sort of moved on to the M3s and different things like that, the stuff that you looked at and thought you were never, ever going to get there. So, and you look at where it's at now, it's youth team players are occupying positions like that. So it's very hard to maintain a perspective
but I mean,
and a reality.
youth team players now, are they still on big dough?
Well, they would be on a lot more than what they were in the past, yeah. And again, that presents a challenge, if you like.
So what, 2, 3, 4 grand a week?
Well, it depends. Different clubs will be paying different money for kids. Yeah, it can vary. There can be varies the scale dependent on what value the club attached to that particular individual. But again, how do you maintain a perspective on that if you're earning that type of money and you've never played a game yet?
Well, also the difficulty is just purely, if you take football out of the equation, right? Just purely as a 17-year-old boy. I mean, I think when I was 17, I think I had a bank account. I'd done a couple of part-time jobs, but I was still at school. And if you'd have said to me, right, manage an income of, say, 3 grand a week, I wouldn't have had the first clue how to manage that. I'd have probably gone and bought a nice car, had a nice holiday, done all the things that a 17-year-old boy would probably do with that kind of money. This is part of
what do you do after them 2 weeks?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
No, it's totally different. It's totally different. And as I say, I think there's more of a structure around it now from the clubs, trying to look after those people. But again, it remains difficult.
So what do you do now with the players that you speak to?
No, well, you say I'm
because you're a trained lawyer now.
Well, I'm kind of lucky. I'm just finishing my legal practice course at the minute, and for me, laws is a different sort of development path, if you like, because then you go into a 2-year training contract where you you spend 6 months in 4 areas, and then you'd look at the area you're likely to specialise in. As I say, I've been lucky now because I've gone with a firm in Liverpool, Hampson Hughes, and I will be working in the sports area.
Right.
Like the firm has done a tie-up with a big Spanish agency, which is looking at bringing players in, managing them, and obviously that's, for me, is an exciting opportunity. I think
so. It's representing players, but not as an agent, as a legal person,
and being able to offer a number of things to them. Because as I say, in filling in the gaps in the conversation, if you like, it is difficult. And like when you have that money, when you've got those opportunities, different people are attracted to you, and not all of them have your best interest at heart. And I think that's probably one of the things you would look at and go, that you can try and rectify. And having played and having seen it, you have got a unique experience in and around that.
See, I was telling Danny Mills was in yesterday doing the Monday Night Club, and I was speaking to Danny off the radio saying that you were coming in tonight and what we were going to be talking about. And Danny said to me, it's a big problem in the sport, he said, that agents get involved, because he said what happens is an agent will encourage you to sign on because they want a cut of the signing on fee. He said, and after that, they leave you to it. Now, obviously not all agents will do that, but when you were playing, did you get a sense that you were kind of left to fend for yourself? And young players now, I mean, we spoke about the whole bank account thing when you're 17. My mum sat me down and taught me how to do that. But are lads who are signing at football clubs getting that kind of parental guidance?
Absolutely. Again, like I think there's good and bad in everything. I'm sure that can apply to whatever you do. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's sensationalist to turn around all agents are whatever. That isn't the case. There's good agents and there's bad agents. But unfortunately, we hear a lot more about the bad ones. So I know any number of agents who've looked after lads and continue to look after them really, really well. From my point of view now, the element as well is in regards to football development, because, and Danny will, having played with the levels he played at, your margins of actually breaking through are so small. So aside from the basic things of looking after your wealth or looking after your bank accounts, or the things that people say might not be done to a good level, the development of the individual as a footballer is as important a part of that. And I think that's where people who've been involved in the game, some of them, have a unique offering in that they can actually help to guide them through potential pitfalls that means they'll make that transition into a first team or have a career, as opposed to statistics at the moment of the failure rate. So I think from my point of view, that's probably is more important an area than actually the agent side, the bank account side, the different elements that are a byproduct of that.
I suppose the reason why I focused on that is because there was research out recently, wasn't there, saying that was it as many as 1 in 3 footballers leave the game and at some point are involved in bankruptcy?
Yeah, completely. But again, sensationalist headlines, isn't it? Like, there's lots of footballers who don't. I think the problem you have is...
Well, there'll be 2 in 3 that don't. Won't there?
Yeah. But I'm saying the difficulty within that is when you put the full story around that, is that a lot of the advice those players will have got during the course of their career, you revert back to when you're young and someone tells you, when listening 15 years when you're done. You don't want to hear that. It's completely alien to you. All you can focus on is the now and what you're doing now. You never see the bigger picture.
Well, and I suppose, again, remembering back to when I was kind of 15, 16, 17, the idea of being 33 or 34, 35, that was well old.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Completely ancient. Who'd want to listen to somebody who's that age? But that's part of your development, isn't it? It's part of life. And that's not just limited to football. It's probably limited to anything.
But I suppose footballers have the worst reputation, don't they, for lacking any kind of life intelligence aside from footballing intelligence. Would you say that was a fair perception?
Yeah, completely, but they're both totally different. You live in a complete cocoon as a footballer.
So it's all done for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And then all of a sudden, when that's not the case, it's a steep learning curve.
Yeah,
so you're starting from scratch in many ways.
I mean, what you're talking about, when you say it's all done for you, you hand your passport in, they sort all the travel out? Yeah,
but to be honest with you, that's hardly makes somebody alien or lacking any form of intelligence. It's just how it happens. You travel in a group, your passport's handed in, and you travel well. I don't see that as being something that would separate a footballer from anybody else.
Well, other than you may not know how to do it if you have to do it on your own.
Yeah, well, Ryanair, you don't get away with much with Ryanair at the moment, in relation to stuff like that. So
other low-cost airlines are available, Gareth. Yeah. But I mean, in terms of, what else would they do for you? I mean, would they sort your housing out? Would they pay your bills?
There's no rocket science element to it. It's basic things. You're as a footballer, you are in a privileged position. You're trained. You're an athlete, and obviously the emphasis on what people focus on is producing on a football pitch. So everything is geared and set up around that.
Gareth Farrelly talking to us this evening. Former Premier League player, now training to be a lawyer. 0500 909 693 if you want to ask Gareth a question. You can text us 85058. You can find us on Twitter. Talk to me about the health scare that you had then towards the end of your career. What happened there?
To be honest with you, my career, I finished at Bolton, I'd say at 28. I fell out with Big Sam, and as I say, with having the benefit of experience, I needed somebody to manage me. Never mind just a football club. But it's 5 years ago now. I had a health scare. I had a stomach aneurysm, and I was on my way to see a friend in Bournemouth. I took ill at Warwick on the M40, and the long story short is I ended up having surgery, and I'm a massive advocate and fan of the NHS. From the time I phoned an ambulance to the time I left hospital, district nurse, I'll say hello to Vinod and all the team at Walsgrave Hospital, who were incredible for me. But there's a 90% mortality rate from the aneurysm I had, and thankfully I was part of the lucky 10%. So my evaluation or my decisions and outlook around football is slightly different, because I returned as a footballer after you're ill, and people will relate to that, ill or injured. The first question you'll always ask is, am I going to be able to play again? When can I play again? I had a 9-month recovery. I did my rehab at Preston. I signed non-contract at Morecambe. But at 32 then I started to realise I wasn't going to hit any dizzy heights again. My mistakes had been made, if you like. And I was quite comfortable with looking at something else. I'd had experience in Ireland of player manager for a couple of years, and I dealt with any number of legal issues on any given day, and that had sort of piqued my interest in that. And I was lucky. I went to an open day at university at Edge Hill, and I met a couple of the law lecturers there. I did a fast track course to get onto the degree programme, and I'm 4 years down the line with that now. I finished my degree, and I've obviously a year at law school now, so people laugh, but from a non-academic background, I think it was probably easier to become a footballer than a lawyer.
Although I suppose people might also say to you, how many footballers have got the potential to become lawyers?
Lots of them do, and I think there's people. Is
it unfair when people say footballers are thick?
Yeah, completely.
In the dressing rooms that you were in, right? How many of the lads were thick?
Plenty.
Right.
But some of them might have qualified as lawyers. You never know. Stuart Ripley's done it. He's a super guy. Colin Murdoch did a law degree. He's an agent now. I know there's lads doing law degrees at the moment. So I think
because famously, Graham Lasseau said he got stick for reading The Guardian. Yeah,
but he probably had the sun wrapped up in The Guardian. Depends. Everybody's different. I think that those...
But is there a climate in a dressing room of not wanting to break out from that mould? Do you know what I mean? If you're sat there and you're reading your law book, is someone going to go look at Clever Clogs over there?
Yeah, but to be fair, that wasn't something that presented itself to me. I was long gone out of football before that. Like the dressing room banter and the different things in and around that, those things are always going to be there. But whether that would distract or stop somebody
That's what I was getting at, really.
Yeah, no, I
is
don't
it
see
a barrier
that.
to
No,
progress?
not at all. And I think people who are of that ilk would be quite comfortable to take the stick, knowing further down the line the position they're going to be in.
What would you have said to your 28-year-old self then? If you were advising you and you've fallen out with Big Sam at Bolton, what would you have said to you?
I think what happens with football, and again, you can look at young people in this, is that you become distracted and like everything else becomes a bigger issue than it is. And I think for me, at different times, having somebody would have said, listen, you just need to focus on yourself. Don't listen to all the other noise, all the other things that are going on around you. Focus on your football, because at the end of the day, if you focus on your football and you produce what you're capable of, then everything else will take care of itself.
So you think you could have got back into that?
Oh, not
team?
at that time, no. But I'm saying you're saying what would the advice you would give to somebody now? And I think
is that the advice Wayne Rooney needs at the moment?
Wayne Rooney's a world-class footballer and has achieved,
but his head's been
incredible
turned,
amounts. Yeah, but head's been turned. That's what I'm saying. That sometimes it's easy to become distracted by everything that goes on around you. But the ultimate core of it is Wayne Rooney loves playing football. When he's happy and when you haven't got that background noise being the dominant voice in your head, you just focus on your football, and you've done that from when you can remember. So I think.
So would you tell him to stick at United?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he's going to leave Man United. I think it suits people. It becomes a talking point again, doesn't it? I don't see him leaving Man United at all.
You don't know him?
No, not well at all. But again, I think what he's achieved speaks for itself.
When you've had a life-changing illness like you did, and you're in that 10% that survives it, does it change your perspective on not playing? Because a lot of ex-pros I interview here at 5 Live, you can see in their face, they're still gutted that they've had to retire.
Yes, completely. And I think the modern game has created even more challenges in relation to the wealth and different things that are around it. Because for me, people will always compare eras. I'm sure you'll have plenty of conversations and things around that, and different players. And there's people that would have been, the word legends and superstars is banded around now, whereas the reality is some of the players who played previously would fall into that category, but probably didn't have the same rewards that are there now. Now that's just part of the game. From my point of view, you don't pull the curtains back every morning and smell the fresh air and look at the grasses, it's a little bit greener, but you do have a different perspective in relation to that. And I've been lucky, I think, that, like I say, 5 years since I've packed in, if you like, have been 5 really,
career.
Really good years. Yeah. So I've.
But you still pull the curtain back and think, I wish I was going to training?
Oh, no.
So that's done now?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I've made peace with it. I miss certain elements. I miss being fit. People miss the dressing rooms and different things. But overall, I'm quite comfortable with where I'm at.
Is the best thing about being retired that you can enjoy a Christmas dinner?
Oh, Christmas, yeah. Well, you always had one. It might have been slightly smaller than what you eat now, but it's still there. But again, that's a small price to pay, isn't it? When you look back on a career, sacrificing yourself for a week or two every year isn't really a big problem. When
do you qualify?
Hopefully September.
And then you'll be representing players and looking after them and giving
them... Yeah. Well, as I say, I've fallen into a situation now with the boss agency that it's something I think I can help with. And as I say, again, from an ex-player's point of view, having an opportunity and something positive makes it a little bit easier.
Did any ex-players offer you advice when you were playing? Did any?
Yeah, but again, that's back to the same thing. Did you want to listen to them?
Right. So you just take no notice?
Yeah, you do.
Even if there was a player you
take
admire?
things on board. You take things on board, but like you say, you're distracted. You see different things. You're focused on different things. Those ex-players might be in the same position you're trying to take. There's constantly different challenges.
Thanks very much for coming and talking to us. It's very interesting to hear the other side of the fence. 85058 for your text and your reaction to that. You can it was this, as Tim Vickery would say, there's an exception to every rule. Footballers IQ above 68, a bit like Brummies, he says, having a pop at me. Thank you very much for that. Bolton fan here, Gareth. Best of luck with the new career. Full respect for the Preston goal, never to be forgotten, says Martin in Bolton. I think that probably goes for Claret and Blue and the Toffees as well, doesn't it? Gareth Farrelly, thanks very much for coming and talking to us.